If you've ever tried to build an Apple smart home and felt confused by the terms AppleHome, HomeKit, and Matter, then you're probably not alone. They're often used interchangeably online, on product boxes, and even by manufacturers, but they're not the same thing. And understand the difference actually matters in 2026 more than it ever has done before. Two devices can appear side by side in Apple Home. Both respond to the voice assistant, yet sometimes behave very differently behind the scenes due to the implementation. So in this video, I'm going to break down what Apple Home actually is, what HomeKit really means, and where Matter fits in all of this. And most importantly, what you should care about when you're buying devices. By the end, you'll understand how Apple's smart home stack is structured and how to build a setup that is reliable and future-proof. Before we can explain the confusion, we need to rewind and look at a bit of history. Apple launched HomeKit in September 2014 alongside iOS 8. At that time, HomeKit was a developer framework and it was also positioned as the front-facing definition. It defined how smart home accessories could securely communicate with Apple devices. The Home app that lives on your phone today existed back then, but because HomeKit was the only visible name at the time, people started using it. If something worked with Apple Home, it was called HomeKit. Over the years, Apple refined the experience. The Apple Home app became central, home hubs were introduced, and the last couple of years they've been key to the home experience. And Apple gradually shifted from a developer-first platform to a user-first system. In the last year or so, Apple has changed its language. Consumer-facing messaging now talks about Apple Home, not HomeKit. By 2026, Apple rarely uses the word HomeKit in marketing at all, but the old name has stuck. This is why people still say, I use HomeKit, even when they're actually using Apple Home through the Home app. Sometimes, actually, with Matter devices, this historical overlap is the root of the most confusion today. So before we go any further, here's a structure that you need to understand in order to go through this video. Think of Apple Home as the house. HomeKit and Matter are two different ways devices are allowed through the door. Once a device is inside, Apple Home then decides how you control it, how it appears in the Apple Home app, and how your voice assistant interacts with it, and what features it can access. Apple Home is the container. HomeKit and Matter are integration frameworks. The connectivity standards like Thread, Zigbee, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and all of those are the plumbing that helps the signals get around the house. With that in mind, everything else starts to make sense. So let's start with the name that started it all. HomeKit is not the app. HomeKit is Apple's proprietary smart home framework for developers. When a manufacturer builds a device with native HomeKit support, they're integrating directly with Apple's APIs, Apple's security model, and Apple's privacy infrastructure. These devices must pass Apple's MFI certification process, which enforces strict requirements around encryption and data handling. This is why native HomeKit support devices historically cost more and often took longer to launch. HomeKit is fully owned and controlled by Apple. Apple decides what it can do, how it evolves, and what features are exposed. This control is what enables Apple's specific capabilities that other platforms cannot easily replicate. Native HomeKit support still matters in 2026 because some Apple features sit outside the Matter specification. The two that come to mind is HomeKit Secure Video and Apple HomeKey. To use HomeKit Secure Video, cameras and video doorbells must support native HomeKit. Video analysis happens locally inside your home, footage is encrypted end-to-end, and recordings are uploaded to iCloud without Apple or the manufacturer having access to the content. Apple does not store encryption keys. The privacy model is one of the strongest differentiators of Apple Home. The same goes with Apple HomeKey. Smart locks can be Apple Home certified by Matter, but to use Apple HomeKey, they need to be certified via Apple through the MFI program. Although it's worth pointing out, Matter camera support is coming later this year, but how Apple will integrate HomeKit Secure Video with Matter-based cameras is still unclear. Also, a new standard for smart locks is coming from the Connectivity Standards Alliance to simplify smart lock unlocking standards, and we need to wait and see how this changes the certification process. For now, if you want the deepest Apple Home camera experience, native HomeKit support along with Apple HomeKey. Now let's talk about Matter. Matter is a cross-platform smart home standard designed to make devices work across Apple Home, Google Home, Alexa, and others. Unlike HomeKit, Matter is not owned by Apple. It's developed by the Connectivity Standards Alliance, with Apple as one of the steering members. In AppleHome terms, Matter is a common language that allows accessories to join without needing specific certification, just CSA certification. One important clarification: Matter is not a wireless signal. It runs on top of existing networks like Thread, Wi-Fi, or Ethernet. Matter defines how devices communicate, not how data is transported. If you want to watch a video about protocols, you can check out a video in the description below or coming up now in the top corner. When you add a Matter device to AppleHome, Apple Home Hub is the Matter controller. This accessory appears in the Home app, works with a voice assistant, and can be used in scenes and automations just like any other home device. From the user's perspective, the experience feels almost identical. Matter has been a huge win for Apple Home. It has brought in manufacturers that previously ignored Apple entirely. It has lowered barriers to entry, and it has introduced new device categories like robot vacuums for the first time. Matter has also allowed Apple to adopt features in the standard itself. For example, adaptive lighting is now supported in Matter. Previously, lights needed native HomeKit support to offer that feature. In 2026, buying a Matter device gives you confidence it supports Matter, it will work with Apple Home at a fundamental level. And as Matter expands into cameras later this year, the range of compatible devices will grow even further. Now let's talk about the part you actually use. Apple Home is the user-facing Smarthome platform. It is the system you interact with through the Apple Home app on iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Mac, and Apple TV. Apple Home handles device control, scenes, automations, remote access, notifications, voice integration, and home sharing. If a device appears in the app and responds via your voice assistant, it's part of Apple Home. It does not matter whether the device connects using native HomeKit or Matter. Apple Home is the experience layer that you enjoy. It's your smart home you actually live in. And here's the key difference. Matter devices are limited to the features defined by the Matter specification, plus whatever extension Apple chooses to support. This makes them predictable, widely compatible, and easy to buy with confidence. In the main, devices like lights, sensors, it doesn't matter if it's HomeKit or Matter certified. Native HomeKit devices are not as easily constrained. They can expose richer, deeper system hooks and tighter integration with Apple services. This is why advanced categories like cameras and doorbells and security devices still benefit from native HomeKit support. Both appear identical in the app and both play a very good part. So why does Apple support both? Well, this is intentional. Matter is not replacing HomeKit and HomeKit is not going away. Matter extends choice and simplifies compatibility. HomeKit preserves some of the unique features which are available in that platform. In 2026, Apple Home setups use both of the right devices via the relevant standard. In real-world use, the performance between Matter and native HomeKit devices is very similar. The difference is not speed, it is depth. Once you understand the layers, buying becomes much easier. Look for works with Apple Home or works with Apple HomeKit, although this label appears less on newer products. Look for the Matter logo, as this will work with Apple Home. Matter over Wi-Fi and Matter over Thread both work. Prefer Thread if it makes sense for lights, sockets, locks, and sensor type devices. Use Wi-Fi for devices like cameras, doorbells, and TVs. Check whether a manufacturer bridge is required. Bridges typically add costs, but they're not automatically a bad thing. Companies like Aqara and Philips Hue offer excellent products that rely on a bridge that are still worth considering. So to wrap up, Apple Home is the platform you use as the person using the smart home experience. HomeKit is the framework that enables Apple's deepest smart home features. Matter is a standard that expands capability and choice for the customer. If a device appears in the Home app, it's part of Apple Home. How it connects determines how far it can go. Understanding the structure is the key to building an Apple Home that actually works. So guys, that's the end of the video. I know if you enjoyed it, if you have, then it'd be greatly appreciated if you give it a thumbs up, as this helps this channel out more than you can actually know. And you can also check out some of the other videos on the channel all about Apple Home and its smart home platform. And some of them are featured in the description below. If you want to become part of this Apple Home community, then hit the subscribe button and the bell button to be updated when new videos land. You can also check us out on our social media channels on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search for Apple Home Authority. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.